tea friends. This is Barb Gully of Barb's Tea Service, and we're back for our podcast courtesy on TV Studio. And I'm here, as always, with studio engineer, co-host, and arm candy, Chris Gully.
Here I am.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
This is our 32.
32nd.
Number 32.
Yeah, all right.
However you want to frame that.
Yeah.
It's our 32nd podcast in the studio.
Yes.
And when we were here last, it was Valentine's Day.
Yes.
And now this is the last day of February. We're ready for March Madness.
It's crazy madness.
It
Okay.
is crazy. And I am talking about basketball.
Right.
Go green.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to put a little bit of that February madness behind us.
Oh, we need to.
Wasn't that an interesting month?
Yeah, sort of interesting, and that's we'll call it interesting.
So, just in brief, we had
Yeah.
a lot of what I'll call unplanned
Yeah.
household updates.
Yes.
We had a revolving door of
Yeah.
plumbers, roofers,
Yeah.
rough carpentry.
Yeah.
We had an electrician
Yeah.
out.
Right.
All for different issues.
Yeah.
So, goodbye, February.
Yeah.
And we're ready for March. So,
All
bring
right.
it on.
Very good.
To be more upbeat,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a lot of catching up because we were on the road again last week.
Right.
A little brief
Yep.
sojourn to Beverly, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But we have a lot to catch up on. So
Right.
we're going to talk about that deliciously fun chocolate and tea pairing. We've been talking about it for quite a few months. We actually had it last week. We're going to talk about that. We love Chesterfield Township Public Library.
Yes.
Wonderful place.
Yep.
So what are we going to talk about aside from that? We're going to talk about Assam tea
Right.
and tea grading,
Oh.
going for the gold.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about the special chocolate that we paired with our Indian chai.
Mm-hmm.
Last podcast, we said we were going to reveal what we paired it with.
Yes.
So
It was very notable.
it was very notable.
Yep.
And we're going to add a little footnote to our podcast where we talked about the presidential homes,
Right.
Abraham Lincoln, kind of a funny story about the log cabins.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And another recently reported health benefit of tea, if we have time.
The hits keep coming.
They really do.
All right.
But first, tea.
All right.
Okay, today we have Assam Gold from Eli's in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a black tea from India. Shall we take a little taste?
Yes, we shall. That's yeah. So it's it's another black tea. It's very earthy.
It is very earthy.
But good, very pleasant, and it's actually got a bit of I don't know. I'd call it more of a even balance to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. It's very smooth. It has a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah. Yes.
On Eli's notes, it has a little taste of molasses.
I get that. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the gold factor comes from
Uh-oh.
Assam Gold features tippy golden orange peko leaves.
Okay.
And that's what gives it's that kind of nice, robust, smooth taste.
That's a lot of words.
It is, and there's going to be more.
Okay.
More of that to come. But the tips are the new growth of the tea plant, the unfurled leaves.
Uh-huh.
So these leaves can look like little silver needles.
Ah, yes. Oh, callback. Yes.
Or gold. They
Ah.
have some golden hues. And they give the tea a better quality.
Right.
Richer taste, richer flavor. Of course, that also translates into a little higher price.
Okay.
So the Assam that we purchased at Eli's the Assam Gold is twice as much as their Assam.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm,
All right.
mm-hmm. But it's an elegant tea. It's very nice. I'm going to have another taste.
Very good.
And after all we've been through in February, we need a hearty tea.
We do. We deserve it.
So while we're talking about these tippy and golden and peko, thought we'd just touch briefly on the tea grading of the grading of tea leaves.
Right.
And a lot of these terms will be familiar to folks, maybe not all of them,
Mm-hmm.
but this just lets you know what type of tea based on the tea leaves, and et cetera. So it's a grading system on
Right.
high quality to low quality.
Okay.
And one that people will be quite familiar with would probably be orange pekoe.
Okay.
And how do you pronounce pekoe?
I'm Team Pico.
Okay. Either pronunciation is appropriate.
Uh-huh.
Pico is the most commonly used.
Right.
So you're in with a lot of good company.
Right.
I say pekoe.
Okay.
But
Dare to be different.
it's all the same.
All right.
Okay, and when we say orange pekoe,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what the orange refers to?
It's not the flavor.
That is exactly right.
Right.
It's not the color, it's not the flavor.
Okay.
And it's said to have come from the Dutch,
Oh, okay.
because when they were formulating this grading system,
Right.
the Dutch were the first to import tea from China.
Right.
And they have the House of Orange.
House of Orange.
So that showed a little bit of a connection to them as well as
Right.
good quality.
Okay.
So with that, the orange pekoe grade is whole leaves, but without the tips.
Okay.
So without what we saw with the Assam.
Okay.
And it tends to be maybe a little bit more hardy, not
Right.
quite as smooth as the tips.
All right.
And then we have other different grading
Okay.
labels.
All right.
Okay, so flowery orange pekoe.
Oh, okay.
We have golden flowery orange pekoe.
Uh-oh.
We have tippy golden flowery orange pekoe.
It's like it's like a tongue twister.
It is a tongue twister.
All right.
So this is the one I just said.
Yeah. Right.
That is like our Assam gold.
Okay.
So it's known for the higher proportions of tips,
Right.
which gives it the richer flavor and aroma, etc.
Okay.
Layer of complexity.
Yes.
Did you get the complexity?
I did. Yes.
I thought you did. Okay. There's more.
Okay.
So there's FTG FOP, which is finest tippy golden flowery orange pekoe,
Wow.
or
What?
SFTG FOP, super finest tippy golden flowery orange pekoe.
That's amazing.
Woo!
All right.
All right. So we are going to do another podcast, more of a deep dive
Right,
in that. But
right.
but just on the other end of the spectrum, there's also the grade quality of fannings.
Uh-huh.
Fannings are the small particles of the tea leaves,
Okay.
sometimes referred to as dust.
Yeah, okay.
And it's what I call, which you would find in tea bags,
Right.
which I call the generic or grocery store
Sure.
type of tea bags. And their infusion rate is super fast.
Oh, because of the small.
They're small,
Yeah.
exactly. So people will ask me, well, what's the steeping time
Oh.
of different teas? And it depends on the type of tea, of course,
Okay.
but also the size of the leaf.
Ah.
So if it's a bigger leaf, it's going to steep longer.
Right.
This one, it's real fast.
Okay. It's
Okay.
physics.
It is. Okay, so I chose this tea, this Assam Gold, for a couple of reasons.
Mhm.
And one of them was because we talked about this. We chose this as one of our teas for our chocolate and tea pairing
Yes.
in Chesterfield Township. And I have to give a shout out to BTS team member Pam,
Nope.
who did a lot of the literally heavy lifting.
As she does.
But this was a great event. We were so excited to be invited back
Yes.
because both of us really liked our last visit where we did tea history and tea etiquette. This was our chocolate and tea pairing.
Yeah.
And they limited it to 20 guests
Right.
because that's the size of their event space. Also, that's a perfect size for a tasting.
Yes.
Because you get this back and forth
Right.
and you're sharing notes.
Right.
And it was really fun.
People have time to kind of savor and compare and discuss.
Exactly. And so we really enjoyed it. But when we were at our last podcast, we did the Indian chai.
Right.
And we said that we were going to pair it with a certain type of chocolate.
Yes.
And we would reveal it on our next podcast.
And here we are.
And here we are. So I want to let everybody know what we did, because this was, I think, one of the biggest hits.
Yes.
So with our Indian chai, we have all kinds of spices, and we have peppers and
Right.
cardamom and cinnamon, and we paired it with a rustic dark chocolate cinnamon from Mindo.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about...
Yeah. An explosion.
It was an explosion. It was a wow factor.
Yeah.
And what I thought was really cool about this was because we talked last podcast about how a lot of millennials like chai.
Right.
And there was about a third millennials in our event.
Okay.
And there's a lot of baby boomers, our
Okay.
crowd.
Yeah.
And the millennials were excited that chai was going to be served.
Okay.
But some of the boomers, as we had discussed before, this isn't our go-to necessarily.
No, it's not our milieu.
Right. And not to paint a broad brush,
Yeah.
but we kind of do. And
Right.
and so we introduced some of the folks in our spectrum here, or strata, and they really liked it.
Yes.
Didn't think they would.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of nice. We're stretching
Exposing people to new things.
Exactly. Good for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the Assam tea, what do you think? You're very good at food pairing.
Right.
What kind of foods do you think would pair with an Assam?
It's going to be to me probably more on the savory side of foods. So, for example, this morning I had my bagel cream cheese with my Trader Joe's everything spice, and that would have gone very well, I think.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I am. You are right.
Yeah.
Because the nice thing about Assam is that it's so hearty.
Right.
That you can really, match it.
Yeah, you can. Yes.
Or surpass it.
Right.
But it'll take on things like, it suggested you could do salmon, you could do Mexican food.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Yep.
Carrot cake.
Okay.
So again, you're going for the big tastes.
Right.
And strong cheeses.
Okay.
Also fruit tarts, shortbread cookies.
Okay.
That's kind of on the lighter side, but also chocolate truffles.
Ah, okay.
And do you know what chocolate we paired with this Assam tea?
Which is?
I'm not going to share that.
Oh, man.
You just have to come to one of our chocolate and tea pairings to find out.
Oh, such a tease.
That's our tease.
All right.
But as we mentioned before, there's really no wrong answer with the chocolate and tea pairings, but there are better answers.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So while we're still drinking our Assam tea, and this is the Assam Gold, thought we'd talk just a little bit about what is Assam tea.
Right.
And I'm taking some of this information from an article that was in Tea Time magazine a few years back. We did a feature on it. And Assam tea comes from the Assam region of India.
Yes.
And we've talked before about all tea comes from Camellia sinensis.
Right.
And that was discovered in China.
Right.
And that's Camellia sinensis.
Okay.
In India, in the Assam region, they have Camellia sinensis assamica.
Aha.
And that's the tea plants that grow there.
So it's a variety.
That's right.
Okay.
It is a variety of Camellia sinensis.
All right.
And it tends to have bigger and broader leaves.
Okay.
And it has like a stronger, robust.
And it's
flavor.
native. It's a native plant to that part of India.
It is.
Right.
It is. And its history, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Usually boils down to money, and
et
cetera.
Uh-huh.
Well, there were rumors that there were these tea plants in India.
Right.
British didn't really care about it until in the 1830s they wanted to sort of knock out the monopoly that China
had. Yeah.
It's like
competition.
They wanted to knock out the middleman. So when they decided this was the inspiration or motivation they needed to explore in India, which they were controlling at the time. So explorers went out, and it was sort of this gold rush atmosphere. And a lot of people went out there, challenging conditions, going through the jungle. It's remote. But eventually they were discovered, and tea was then cultivated there.
Right.
And paid off for the tea production because, according to the Tea Board of India, Assam is currently responsible for a little more than half of India's tea production and approximately 13% of the world tea supply.
Okay.
So that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Okay. And as we've mentioned, it's a heartier tea, more robust, earthy, malty.
Right.
And it tends to be the basis or component in a lot of the breakfast teas.
Ah, interesting.
And we had talked about the English and Irish
And
breakfast
Scottish
tea,
yeah.
and how it tastes malty.
Right.
All right. So Assam is located in the northeast area of India.
Right.
But you were in another part of India a few years ago.
Yeah, you may have noticed for 3-4 weeks I was not home.
I did. I really did.
Yeah. So I had this is kind of later in my career. I was doing a project management, and I would be tapped. So anyway, there was kind of this project that was kind of having some difficulties, and so I was asked to actually travel to Spain and in India to kind of work with the local teams there, see if we could straighten this out. So that was so I had one of the worst flights of my life coming into Mumbai. It was Mumbai is very tropical and stormy. I guess I came in at like the worst time.
Oh.
And when you see the flight attendants looking worried, that's really the time to. And they were looking worried.
Okay.
So anyway, needless to say, we landed okay, and then took a long trip to Pune, which is at a higher elevation, very temperate, and so I worked. But while I was there, talking with my Indian colleagues and big tea drinkers there, and one of the little nuggets of information was there was a bit of a complaint because their best tea in India was really for export only. And not really available for local consumption. So
okay,
and so that fact was pointed out to me.
So interesting fact.
Yeah,
You wouldn't know unless you're there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And you had some tea time there.
I did. Yeah.
Well,
and coffee's really not a big thing there. I mean, it was made available, for the people like me that were traveling, but. Tea is everywhere, and that's what you drink.
So that is on my list.
Yeah.
I want to get there. So
right.
Okay. Well, leaving India and that crazy
right
trip you had,
right,
back in U.S. and talking about, I said we'd catch up a little bit more on those presidential homes that we visited in February. So a lot was going on this month.
Right.
And we did the 3 president homes in 3 days in 3 different states.
Okay.
And the last one was Knob Creek. That was the boyhood home of Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
And it had a connection to Hildene, which we had just visited this summer.
Right.
And Hildene is in Vermont.
Right.
It's the retirement home of Lincoln's oldest son.
Yeah.
Or the one who lived to adulthood, I should say. This is his retirement home. 8,000 square feet.
Right.
Event space is over 14,000 square feet.
Right.
Which I would think, what a lovely place to have a tea.
It would be great.
And I am available should anyone need a presenter.
Right.
But the significant fact as it relates to the cabin
of
Hildene was this brick outline.
Right.
Or outline made of bricks, I should say, in front of Hildene.
Right.
And it's the size, approximately 12 feet by 17 feet of the log cabins that Abraham Lincoln would have lived in.
Yes, right.
And just for reference, an average 2-car garage is about 20 feet by 20 feet.
Right, yeah.
So that tells you the size.
Right.
Anyway, when we went to Knob Creek, they had a log cabin on the campus.
Right.
But they never claimed it belonged to Abraham Lincoln or the Lincoln family.
Mm-hmm.
They said it was built from logs from a neighboring area.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. But what we missed out on, and it was very close, is about 10 miles away is the actual birthplace site of Abraham Lincoln in Hodgenville.
Right.
And that's now where they have the memorial.
Right.
And inside is the cabin of Abraham Lincoln. It was originally claimed to be the birthplace cabin.
There's a lot of cabins.
There are so many cabins. Hard to keep track of. And there's going to be even more.
Yeah.
So we got to keep up.
Be ready.
Yeah, be ready. Exactly. So what happened with the cabin that's at the memorial? And that it was, okay, great. So it was it was constructed in 1895
Uh-huh.
from the logs that were on the property of the Sinking Spring Farm where Lincoln was born.
Right.
And this great entrepreneur, Alfred Denner,
Right.
he has this home and he has it built from these logs on the property.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims it is the birthplace cabin of Abraham Lincoln.
Uh-huh.
So he takes it on tour
Yes.
around the country.
As one does.
As one does. But this guy's not satisfied with one birthplace cabin.
No.
So he adds to the mix another
Yeah.
log cabin. This is said to be the birthplace cabin of Confederate President Jefferson Davis.
That's how American is that?
It is. That's absolutely.
Yeah.
And so he builds this
Right.
as these two birthplace
Right.
cabins, and nobody really questions the authenticity.
No.
So this dubious duo make their way around the country. They end up in Coney Island in Brooklyn.
Right.
But when they ship it to Brooklyn,
Yeah.
they didn't take a lot of care in
Yeah.
packaging, so
Okay.
the logs got mixed up.
Okay.
And they couldn't really tell
Yeah.
which, without I guess,
It's like your own box of Lincoln logs. They get they get kind of rattled around.
which one are Lincoln, which one Jefferson Davis. Did
Yeah.
you ever have that dilemma?
No.
So, undaunted,
Yes.
our entrepreneur puts them together and he labels it the Lincoln Davis birthplace cabin.
Wow.
It eventually makes its way back
Mhm.
to the actual birthplace site of Lincoln, and it was sold to the folks who were putting this memorial together
Right.
as the birthplace cabin. Well, when the National Park Service took it over, they were always a little skeptical as to its story.
Probably rightly so.
Right. And they had the logs dated.
Right.
What do they call that? The
Carbon
date-
dating. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
date tested. And they found out that it did validate the non-authenticity.
Yeah. Okay.
Because Lincoln was born in 1809, and these logs were circa 1840.
Oh, time traveling logs.
Right. So now it is the symbolic
Okay.
birthplace
That's
cabin
Yeah.
of Lincoln.
Right.
So maybe we'll get there someday.
Yep. Yeah.
But I will let folks know as another BTS teaser,
Mhm.
we're going to be visiting another presidential home
Uh-huh.
very soon,
I can't wait.
and we'll be reporting back.
Okay.
Okay. So now we do have a little bit of time.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I can share something that is a tea benefit that's recently been
Yep.
reported.
Okay.
And a shout out to fellow tea enthusiast
Mm-hmm. And devoted listener.
and devoted listener Quint. Thank
Yep.
you for this. This was a very recent article this week in
Yep.
Washington Post,
Right.
where they had this study. It was published by ACS Food Science and Technology,
Okay.
and they found out that tea leaves naturally absorb heavy metals
Okay.
in the water, so they'll filter out these water contaminants like lead
Okay.
and cadmium and arsenic.
Oh, heavy metal stuff.
Yeah, heavy metal, right.
All right.
So this was something this was conducted at Northwestern University,
Okay.
and the lead author is Benjamin Schindel,
Okay.
and he said that the reason why this is great is because the metals are attracted to the tea leaves.
Right.
They stay on there, and then what do you do once you're done steeping your tea leaves?
You toss the tea leaves.
You toss them out.
Yeah.
So you're not ingesting that, so that it's kind
Yeah.
of this natural filter. The only tea leaves that you really ingest that I could think of would be matcha
Yeah.
tea, because
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
grinding up the tea leaves in that
Right.
powdery form. But
Yeah.
by and large, you're taking away the tea leaves.
Interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So it just kind of occurred to me. These are these kind of like really interesting little tidbits, and it probably might have impacts on history and people's. Years ago, there was a book. I think it was Stephen Ambrose. It was about the story of the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. I think it was called "Nothing Like It in the World." And one of the anecdotes he mentions was, so you had, they were started up from the West Coast and St. Louis, and were trying to meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was found that the immigrant Chinese workers tended to be on the whole more productive.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the theories that was put forth in the book was because the Chinese drank tea, they would boil the tea,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it was healthier. It was because they would kill the germs, as opposed to people who were not part of that culture would just drink the water, which is notorious.
There you go.
For carrying fun things like dysentery, and so that tended to impact these two people two sets of people working on the same thing, and how they dealt with environmental issues and kind of accidentally showing that. Anyway, that's
right.
It just kind of occurred to me. I thought I would share that.
I love that.
Yep.
Thank you. That is a great connection.
Yep.
Because you do think about how all this does affect you.
Right.
And some of these things you don't even realize.
Right.
This is just a natural filter for some of these things.
Right.
And we do concentrate a lot when we're talking about health benefits about like caffeine level and what are all the ingredients. But it's nice to know that this is acting as a filter.
Yes.
And another interesting part about the study is they tried it across all different teas. They did black, oolong, green, white, and even herbal teas.
Right.
And they found that with the exception of chamomile, they all acted as a filter for these contaminants like lead.
All right.
So chamomile didn't do a very good job.
Well, that's not his job.
But the biggest factor as far as the most filter emphasis or effectiveness is time.
Right.
So the longer it's steeped, generally the longer it's going to filter it out. So
very good.
Okay, so that thanks for that sending that little tip along and for sharing that connection with it. And a lot of these things people are wondering, these mysteries get solved. There's a reason
the
for
stuff
that.
bounces around in my brain. It's got to come out somewhere.
Yes. We're glad. We're happy for that.
All right.
So, okay. So I just want to remind everyone that the 3 presidential visits are all in the blog.
Yes.
And that crazy faux cabin story is in there as well.
Right.
And we also have a recipe for mint tea.
Okay.
That was associated with the pole comb. And also a little more details on our chocolate and tea events.
Okay.
So a lot to see in February's blog. A lot coming up.
Okay.
So, do I hear that sound?
I think you do.
Okay. I want to thank everyone for listening.
Yes.
Always want to hear that feedback and interesting tidbits that you share.
Yes.
Even, however, via email.
Yep.
Or in the studio.
Here we go.
As you did today.
Live and in person.
Yes. And so I want to thank On TV Studios for allowing us to be here. And as we like to say at Barb's Tea Service, please stay tuned.
Excellent.